Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. It's unacceptable. The Chase's Shaun Wallace shocking update drops just a few minutes ago. Broken our hearts, this news must see. The set of The Chase was buzzing, as always, bright lights, the hum of producers checking camera angles, and Bradley Walsh's voice echoing in the corridor with a joke about someone's tie. But something felt different that day. Shaun Wallace, the Dark Destroyer, sat quietly in his dressing room, flipping through a leather-bound notebook he rarely let anyone see. The pages were yellowed at the edges, filled with thoughts, trivia, and dates. Some were academic, some deeply personal. A soft knock on the door jolted him from his trance. "5 minutes to studio, Shaun," a runner said with a polite smile. "Thanks, love," he replied, standing and straightening his black suit. As he walked toward the set, he caught his reflection in the hallway mirror. Still sharp, still commanding, but the eyes had stories behind them, stories that until now he'd kept locked away. That day's contestant lineup looked promising. A retired midwife from Derby, a boisterous pub landlord from Bristol, a shy literature student, and then her, Samantha. Shaun's breath caught for just a second when he saw her in the waiting area. Tall, elegant, her silver-streaked hair pinned loosely. He knew her face before he even heard her speak. She was the final contestant of the day, and when Bradley asked her to introduce herself, the air in the studio shifted. "I'm Samantha Hartley," she said smoothly. 58. I used to work in media law, but now I write novels, or try to." Bradley grinned. "A novelist. Anything we might have read? Not unless you like brooding courtroom dramas and stories about second chances," she quipped. Shaun, watching from backstage, blinked hard. He remembered that voice. 25 years ago, it had whispered to him after a debate victory in Cambridge. "You always think you're right, don't you?" They had been in love once, deeply, stupidly. And now, she was standing 10 feet from him, about to play the chase. Samantha's cash builder was strong, 7,000 pounds. She breezed through questions on politics, history, and literature. Then came the moment that Shaun dreaded. The face-off. Bradley introduced the chaser. And today's chaser is the Dark Destroyer, Shaun Wallace. He walked out in his usual stride, tall, proud, intense. But Samantha's eyes met his, and something unsaid passed between them. Not surprise. Recognition. "Well," she said with a smile, "this should be interesting." Shaun allowed himself a brief grin. "Hello, Samantha. Still arguing for the sake of winning?" "And you're still wearing that same intense stare," she replied coolly. Bradley looked from one to the other, amused. "Wait, am I missing something?" Shaun answered first. "We go back a bit." Samantha added, "We dated a very long time ago." The studio murmured. Even the camera crew shifted awkwardly. Bradley, of course, leaned in. "Oh ho, a chase romance. That's a first." After filming ended, Samantha had made it through, barely. Shaun found her near the catering table, sipping mint tea and pretending not to wait for him. He approached slowly. "You always did have nerves of steel." Samantha turned. "And you always knew how to make an entrance." A pause. "I didn't know you'd be here," she added. "I didn't know you'd apply," he replied. "Thought you hated television." I hated you being on television," she corrected, half smiling. There it was, the unspoken. Their relationship had ended in 2001, when Shaun, then a rising barrister and newly minted mastermind champion, began prioritizing fame over foundations. "You chose the spotlight," she had said back then. "And you chose stability," he had replied. Neither of them had been wrong, but the bitterness lingered. 2 weeks after filming ended, Shaun sat for an ITV magazine feature. The writer, a bright-eyed journalist named Hannah, wanted to do something different. The Chasers Unmasked. She wanted to explore the personal sides of the Quizmasters, and Shaun agreed surprisingly. "Let's talk about regrets," she said during their second interview. He hesitated. "You want the usual answer?" "No, I want the real one." Shaun looked out the window at the drizzle streaking down the glass. "Regrets," he repeated. "I have a few. Not about career, I'm proud of my work. But I suppose if I had one regret, it would be the way I let love get away." Hannah's pen froze mid-air. "Are you talking about anyone specific?" He paused, then shook his head. "No names, but yes, there was someone. And if I could go back, I'd tell her I wasn't running from her. I was chasing something I thought I needed." "And now?" Shaun smiled sadly. "Now I know I didn't need the chase, I needed the quiet." A few days after the article ran, Shaun received a handwritten letter at his chambers. It read, "Dear Shaun, I saw the article. You were always good with words, but better with silences. If you ever feel like a walk, no TV cameras, no suits, no questions, let me know. Samantha." He stared at it for hours. Then the following Sunday, he found himself at Hampstead Heath, wearing jeans and a worn jumper. Samantha was waiting, scarf tucked into her coat, eyes still defiant but soft. They walked, talked about old times, about how her books were quiet tributes to people they once knew, and how he had considered quitting the chase after his mother died but didn't know who he'd be without the show. "You're still the same," she said as they sat on a bench. "I hope not," he said. "I hope I've changed." She looked at him for a long moment. "You have," she said, "but the important part stayed." 2 months later, Shaun appeared on Loose Women promoting a new documentary he had narrated. The conversation drifted from education to personal life. "And you've always been a very private person, but in a recent interview, you said something that touched a lot of people, about a past relationship and having no regrets?" Shaun didn't flinch. "Yes," he said clearly. "I've been blessed in many ways, fame, education, career. But I think, for years, I believed those things were more important than people. I was wrong." He paused, then added, "We often don't say the things we should when we have the chance. But I'm lucky. I got a second chance to say them." The audience clapped. But in the corner of the studio, unseen by most, a woman smiled quietly. Samantha. Today, Shaun still walks onto the chase set with the same fierce intellect. He still commands the studio with presence. But he goes home to something more. Not a glamorous house, not a trophy shelf, but quiet dinners, books shared, Sunday walks, a life not built on what he's chased, but on what he's chosen to cherish. And when fans ask him at signings, "Any regrets, Shaun?" he always answers the same way, with that soft half smile. "No regrets. Not anymore." 25 years ago, long before he ever became known as the Dark Destroyer, Shaun Wallace was simply a sharp, ambitious barrister with dreams of winning every debate and climbing every ladder. That is how he met Samantha Hartley. They were both invited to a debate panel at University College London. Shaun was magnetic, confident, analytical, a verbal tactician. Samantha was equally brilliant in her own right, more composed with her words, her voice a soft challenge to his sharper tone. After the panel, they talked for an hour over cold coffee in the common room. He was captivated. "Tell me something you've never told anyone," he dared her. She looked at him and replied, "I used to think I'd end up alone, not because no one would love me, but because I was too scared to ask them to stay." Shaun had no answer then, but that one line etched itself in his heart. They dated for 2 years. They traveled. He helped her prepare legal cases for her firm. She sat in the audience the night he won Mastermind in 2004 with FA Cup finals as his specialist subject, clapping until her palms hurt. But slowly the fame pulled at their seams. Media appearances, radio interviews. His world became faster, louder. Hers remained grounded. "I can't compete with your career," she once said. "You're not supposed to," he replied. But his actions told another story. The final straw came when he missed her book launch for a last-minute TV appearance. "You knew this mattered to me," she said through tears. "It was an opportunity," he insisted. "So was I." And just like that, it was over. In the weeks after Samantha's unexpected appearance on The Chase, Shaun found himself reading her first novel, The Law of Unfinished Things. It wasn't hard to see their story in the pages. The protagonist was a fierce barrister, cold and brilliant, and the woman he let slip away was a journalist obsessed with justice, compassion, and words. He emailed her. "You made me cry, you know." She replied 2 days later, "Good. You used to say you never cried." They met again.